Hello. Today's topic is online education, a driving force for quality, not only online but also for on-campus studies in general. Online studies, they open possibilities of studies from anywhere, studies without borders, so to speak. And online studies also facilitate internationalization that most universities say they want to support. Faculties can cooperate across borders or continents, encourage internationalization standards, and follow a set of rules when making the course to facilitate inter-faculty credit giving and joint degrees. Online studies can also increase capacity without expanding the campus. And online studies can facilitate student support systems because tutors can work from anywhere. And we can also increase professorial flexibility and capacity. Online studies can facilitate joint study programs and increase number of curriculum subjects because we can cooperate and pool things together. E-learning forces teachers to think new, because teachers venturing into e-learning must rethink their teaching methods. The virtual classroom is not intuitive. Teachers who think so will quickly wake up to students disappearing from their courses in droves. Teachers may make learning communities of practice for more socialization, increase understanding, and prevent dropouts. E-learning pedagogy is mainly about how to compensate for what we lose when we move studies from on campus to an online environment. So teachers must structure more and reflect more on their pedagogical approach. A friend of mine, a Professor Emmanuel Frempong in Ghana, he said that one of the main problems now is these crowded auditoriums. So he says, when I studied for my undergraduate degree about 30 years ago, there were 6 students in the final year class. Today, there are often about 100+ students in the same class. At times, the class may have to be broken into 2 groups. And when a lecturer has finished with one group of students, he has to proceed to the other and deliver the same lecture. This can be a bit boring for the lecturer, of course, and maybe also a bit boring for the students. Let's have a look at this figure. This is distribution of internet. And if we look closely, we'll see Asia as the biggest user, of course, because that's where most people live. But look at Africa. Africa is growing, and the last 10 years it has increased by 3,000%. It's enormous. The growth is amazing in Africa and the Middle East especially. So what we can conclude from this statistics is simply that the internet is coming also in what we call the underdeveloped world or developing countries, and it is coming quickly. In most countries, the governments encourage the universities and schools in general to use computers. The problem is, of course, if you don't train the teachers, well, they use the computers, but maybe in the wrong way, like this picture. We have to remember that education is a quite wide concept. It's much more than just learning to know something. So learning to know, learning to learn, general knowledge and understanding is of course very important. But in a good education, you also need the skills, the competence, the practical ability in a variety of settings. And skills, the ability to do things physically, is quite important in an in an education. And also we have to learn to live together. Tolerance, mutual understanding, interdependence, all these things belong to education, of course. And maybe even more important, learning to be. Personal autonomy, responsibility, memory, aesthetics, ethics, communication, physical capacity, all these belong to aspects of education according to the Law Commission to the EU. So let's agree, education is complex. Technology is not enough, far from. In addition to content, pedagogy, learning resources, didactics, student support systems and guidance, all these factors are needed in education. So there are no intuitive shortcuts to a general and good education. A comfort here is education is an investment, not just a cost. So the OECD says federal, state and municipal governments make a profit of $231,000 per invested dollar on each American who graduates from college, mostly through higher income taxes and lower unemployment benefits. This is enormous. Can you imagine anywhere else that you can get a corresponding profit from a dollar that you invest? Let's have a look at collaborative asynchronous learning, which is a key in online education. So, traditional in-person teaching can be replaced by asynchronous teaching in the form of online classes that can be better either scheduled or self-paced. A new pedagogical model involving active engagement of the students rather than passive reception of information, and opportunities to apply new knowledge to real-life situations, representation of concepts and knowledge in multiple ways rather than with text only. Learning as a collaborative activity rather than as an individual act, and an emphasis on learning processes rather than memorization of information. This is from a report made by the World Bank a bit more than 10 years ago. And it states that pedagogy is extremely important. So, learning environments. Good, safe and loving learning environments requires good organization. Most young persons need authoritative adult guidance, but uncritical one-way dissemination of a rigid curriculum is no longer that useful in the information age. So the current trends is that international networks of universities are now offering free or cheap online short courses over a common standard. That means that we have a challenge for most local universities or colleges. Suddenly, they are competing with the best universities in the world, in some sense. Because these best universities in the world, they offer something called MOOCs, Massive Open Online Courses. XMOOCs, they focus on scalability and basic courses. CMOOCs focus on community and more advanced courses. And these you can find on Coursera.org and Udacity.com. So internationalized online study programs are competing for the best students. Increased location and time flexibility, this is in common for all online courses. You will also see more interactive ebooks and pedagogical use of social media. You will see more student engagement, more collaborative learning, and you will also see personalized, sociable, and engaging virtual learning environments, VLES. Typically is that you will also see more flipped classes. Video lectures are perceived as learning resources, not as important curriculum. You will see more peer interaction. You will see less traditional one-way lectures like this. We will have various quality levels of e-courses. There will be a selection of appropriate student-teacher interaction level according to learning goals. So there will be different qualities of e-learning. You will also get more corporate training. MOOCs are probably ideal for corporate training. But, just to conclude here, there are many ICT tools, pedagogy rules. You have to decide as a teacher how your students are to achieve the learning goals. Technology cannot do that. So online students often outperform on-campus students. I just claim that. And the reason is online courses are better structured. They have to be. And pedagogically, with more learning activities, two-way feedback, peer interaction, and reification of learning. That's all part of the e-learning. Content-wise, it will also be better with more varied learning resources. There will be clear progression with timeframes and cutoff dates. And there will be tutor-guided studies. There are more intense interaction between students-professors, student tutors. So we will see an increase in educational quality in general, and I would claim because of online education. The global community must find good ways of increasing educational quality for the new masses of student groups and lifelong learners. They will keep costs down and find new sources of income. One answer to this is increased use of appropriate online education.